Next panel. In the panel, we're going to be talking about creating innovative new VOD services. And I'd like to invite the panelists up. So would you all care to join me? You were too scared to sit by. I'll move down. Oh, Haggai. Well, then you go in there. So, innovative new VOD services. I think probably the newest service of any of you is Oliver, Snap. You just introduced Snap, right?
Yeah, just before Christmas.
So, could you talk a little bit about the challenges of? So you're an operator. And could you introduce yourself and then talk about the challenges of introducing Snap, how you view that with the rest of your catalog and the positioning on the rest of your services?
Sure. We launched a new service.
Could you just introduce yourself?
Yeah, sorry. Oliver Lewis from Sky Deutschland. We're Germany and Austria's #1 pay TV operator. We operate over both satellite and cable platforms. 3 years ago, we introduced the first OTT service that's a companion to the main service. So we're replicating on OTT all of the customers' entitlement to basic channels, film, live sport, and the series catalogs that we run on our premium channels. And we decided to introduce a complementary VOD service that's movies and series and kids content, tends to be more library content, and we're offering it to existing subscribers for €5 a month and to non-subscribers for €10 a month. And that enables us, first of all, to genuinely offer a complementary catalog to existing subscribers, but also to offer people who haven't had a Sky subscription before that VOD experience. It's a multi-screen service on iPad, connected TV, and on iPhone. And we're going to bring it back to other devices. We're launching on Android shortly. So that's a quick introduction to it. I think the point really is that pay TV operators have been doing OTT for a while now, and that it offers us new opportunities, both in terms of new content catalogs and addressing new customer groups. I would say that in Germany, the pay TV penetration is still very low, and we have a lot of headroom for growth. So this is not about introducing a new product that's somehow intended to grow further into a mature market, which I think is what we see in some other places.
So did it take you long, for example, how long did it take you to actually introduce the service? So when you decided you were going to do this, how long between the decision and boom, here it is?
I think the decision was actually the longest part of it. The rights acquisition as well, because we wanted to aggregate a good quality catalogue of library movies and series. But of course, we have existing relationships with almost all of the studios and providers of that content. And we know already all the technical requirements that they will have. So we've built it into the same OTT platform that's running Sky Go as a sort of separate service. And that meant we were able to launch it within 6 months of making the decision.
That's pretty fast. And what about with this service in particular, the Snap, is focused on library, and you have complete box sets and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you also implement features like binge viewing to encourage that type of behavior, or?
Yes, I think we've got a lot that we can add to the UI that will, and I think we're waiting to see how customers are using the service. We were conscious from the beginning that series is a very key component of a service like that. So we have a lot of box sets. We have an exclusive deal with HBO, so we're actually delighted that Fox are making a new series of 24, because we've got all 8 existing seasons of 24, and that's exactly the right message. The new series will run on Sky Atlantic, which is part of one of our subscription packages. But if you want to catch up on 8 times 24 hours of action, then it's all there on Snap. So that's the distinction with our current or premium subscription services. And we focused a lot on series because we think that's genuinely a different experience that wasn't available before.
Actually, do you autoplay the next episode after a certain period of time?
I know that feature, and we don't have it. But
it is. I can tell you, in Netflix, it's deadly. I've ended up watching 2 or 3 hours longer than I intended. It's deadly. Dan, I noticed that you're queuing up the next episode, but it didn't look like you were auto-playing. Was there a reason why you didn't, or is that a planned feature in the future, or...?
Yeah, so that is something we are looking to experiment with. So, interestingly, in user testing, then we did see it divides people. So some people absolutely like, amazing, I love it. Other people, I can't think of anything more annoying. It's interesting that Netflix recently introduced a setting to switch the autoplay function off. So I think that with this first release, we're queuing it up ready to go. So it's easy and simple, and just one press of a button or a tap to access it. I think that we will experiment with autoplay, but we don't want to frustrate users.
Yeah. I did want to follow up with, there was one question that I noted. Why do you ask the consumer, do you want to be SD or HD?
So I think to some extent we're in an interesting position with SD and HD, which is consumers look out for it and they kind of expect it to be there, and they want to be able to actively select HD and to know that they're getting HD. And I think that technically we're at a point with ABR where we can scale users up and down the bit rates to give them the best possible quality. And so we're thinking quite a lot about how do you reassure people that they are getting the quality, the highest quality that they expect, without them having to toggle buttons off and on.
Okay. Fernando, I'd like to ask you, well, first of all, introduce yourself, and then I'll ask you the question.
Well, I'm Fernando Garcia. I'm coming from Telefonica Digital, and what I would like to comment is how Telefonica is approaching the video opportunity. We've recently formed Telefonica Digital as a way to pursue new digital growth opportunities, and clearly video was one of those. Even video was formerly an existing business for Telefonica. We are running some pay TV operations in South America and as well in Spain. And we decided to centralize decisions and to have what I would say is one of the first real cloud TV operations, because we started 2.5 years ago, creating a distributed platform to be able to serve IPTV, DTH, cable TV, TV everywhere, and OTT. This is already up and running and working, and with services already launched in Spain and South America. So this is basically what we've been doing, trying to help our countries to concentrate on the marketing stuff and leave all the product definition on a centralized way, and we've been able to manage that.
So let's stay with that marketing thing. When you introduce an OTT service for the first time, you've done this, how do you go about educating people that it's there and getting them there? Particularly, you've done this in some markets where it's actually pretty challenging because there's a lot of piracy already.
It is.
So tell us how you did that, how you got over that, and how it's going.
So we launched pure video on demand Netflix-like service in Argentina 2.5 years ago, in Brazil more than a year ago, and in Chile quite recently. It's basically the same solution as I've described before. But what we've learned from this time is that there's a lot of education to be done in some of the markets, that you cannot take the lessons from the most advanced markets such as the States or Europe to other emerging markets. Because even the segments of the population are quite different, and you need to educate a lot. I mean, our first competitor is not Netflix, it's the piracy, as you said. It's really cheap to buy a pirated DVD in the street for $1 or $2. So clearly, the change of the people's mindset requires a lot of investment in marketing, and we've been testing different campaigns. For instance, in Argentina, we ran ATL campaigns. We put advertising on the tube stations. We put advertising on radio. We put advertising near to the cinemas, even in the cinema, to educate the people and understand that there's a new way of enjoy TV, of enjoy video content, and we also give clear messages clear examples to the people, saying, for less than the cost of taking your family to the cinema or paying for the popcorn, you have a month of free, legal, HD-ready content for you. And we are combining also transactional VOD with blockbusters, with SVOD. And it's starting to work. I mean, we clearly need to educate the market and keep on doing that. You cannot just launch the service and forget about having the marketing, expecting the user to engage. That doesn't work at all.
So it actually occurs to me that at the price point that we're talking about for OTT, it actually becomes, if you have a large library of content, which you do in your service, it actually becomes competitive with a $1 DVD, illegal DVD, right? Is that a message that you're also taking?
Yes, we do. We do. What we are trying also is to put together content that we know that the people are willing to watch. For instance, we own also a free-to-air station in Argentina, Telefe. And we've played with that content, similar like you are doing on the BBC, but definitely when you mix catch-up TV content with long-form SVOD or long-tail SVOD, it really works. And we are starting to see consumption patterns covering different segments, and we are learning what to do with different types of users. Because the problem with the Netflix-like approach, in which everybody gets all of the content for a very affordable price, is that it's one size fits all. I don't know if this is going to be the way in which the OTT market will end up. I think there's going to be a spaces for specialized SVOD services per country, maybe with more local flavor, maybe a mixture of catch-up TV content. This is just starting. I mean, we need to see more changes happening in this space.
Okay. Jessica, let's turn to you now. Your iRoku TV service is Nigerian-based.
Yes.
But that's not where most of your customers are, or many of your customers are.
The majority of our customers are on iRoku TV, and for anyone who's never heard of Nollywood, it's Nigerian Hollywood. It's actually the second largest film industry in the world in terms of output. So the industry makes roughly about 2,000 movies a year, but the budgets compared to Hollywood and Bollywood are much, much smaller. An average movie might cost between $30,000 and $50,000 to make. So we're talking much, much smaller budgets. Our audience for iRoku TV is predominantly in the West at the moment, and that's just because of broadband connection. It's pretty poor across the whole of Africa. So at the moment, more people watch iRoku TV in London than the whole of Nigeria. And there's 170 million people in Nigeria. So we are really, really genuinely waiting for Africa to come online. At the moment, our revenue mostly comes from the US and UK. But even if 10% of Nigeria came online, our business would look completely different.
So tell me a little bit. That does some funny things to viewing patterns.
Yes. So I think probably a lot of other OTT companies will notice that you might get a little bit of spike in traffic in the morning as people are getting ready for work. Then it goes down during the day, and then it will spike again at supper time, sort of 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock. In Nigeria, what we're noticing is that it's absolutely flat in the morning, and then it spikes at about 10:30, 11 o'clock. It spikes during the day and then goes down again. And this is because people just actually have to watch iRoku TV at work. Most people don't have internet access at home. So we're noticing completely different viewing patterns to, say, other players.
So I guess the caps on their mobile phone are just too low to enjoy the content?
Absolutely. I mean, everyone in everyone in Nigeria, and a lot of people in Africa have 1, 2, maybe 3 phones. Mobile really, really, really is the future in Africa. However, data is still quite expensive. What we've tried to do in Africa is that we've actually compressed the files to be as small as possible. So we don't even give people the HD option. It's something about, I think we've compressed it to 100 kilobytes. It's really, really small, but at least it gives people a chance of being able to watch it. Otherwise, if they try to watch a regular movie on their mobile phone, even if they had the connection, it would just wipe out their data in probably about 5 or 6 minutes. So they would never be able to watch a full-length film in HD.
But on a relatively small screen, 100 kilobits still looks okay.
It's okay, it's watchable, and it's better than nothing if you're a real Nollywood fan.
Yeah. Haggai, one of the challenges with large libraries of VOD content is finding something. in that large library. You've had a lot of experience with user interface and search. Talk a little bit about how you approach getting the right content to the consumer at the right time.
Okay. So for us...
introduce yourself.
Right. So my name is Chagai Borel, and I'm the founder of Orca and the deputy CEO of Via Access Orca, aka VO. So in VO, what we do is we're focusing on the engagement part. And when I look even at the title of this panel, talking about creating new innovative VOD services, then there's a few aspects to those. And what I think in the next few years still has the, let's say, the most potential to grow and change is around how we serve the content itself. I think in terms of, whether it's catch-up TV, PVR, whatever, all of these are VOD kind of services. This technology, whether it's adaptive streaming or not or whatever, these are all about eventually me watching the movie. I think the real potential and change can come from how we reach that content. And your point to the amount of content only makes this issue even bigger. So the way we address it is we've introduced, I know, but we've introduced something we call the engagement model. And this engagement model is built of layers of concepts that we believe if you go by these concepts, you will have a much better user experience. So the two upper layers of this engagement model talk about the personalization and socializing of content, plus the immersive experience of consuming content. So really in high level, we're talking about there's a library of I don't know how many movies already and titles. Take the EPG into account, it's even more. And the way to approach, the way to receive, the way to find something to watch, the discovery of this content is what's going to change during the next few years. And that's what we're working on, and it's very, very challenging. But there's a lot of ideas, and we're looking from second screen applications that are magazine-like viewing. So we're talking about why not come to at home in the evening, and instead of holding a remote or anything like that, you just hold your tablet, your iPad, and you're in a magazine kind of viewing thing. But not a magazine like used to be TV Guide, which is just a structured magazine, but it's a more next generation magazine, which is graphics and doors opening corridors to other doors, and you find yourself eventually viewing a movie, whether on the iPad or bringing it to the television. You end up in somewhere you didn't plan. Same as browsing the internet.
So, hunting through that content, difficult, but we can provide the tools. I want to ask a sort of open question to all of you. Library size. It used to be when services first launched, first started launching online, and VOD services, it was all about numbers. How many thousands or tens of thousands of pieces of content you had in your library. But I've noticed many are now not talking about that. Let's talk about what's the right size for the library. And clearly, am I right in saying that a major objective of an SVOD service is to minimize the amount of content you have to license while maximizing the viewership of the content that you have? So who would like to take on this issue of library size?
I'm happy to pitch in from a BBC point of view. So I think right now, if you go to iPlayer today, there'll be about 1,000 hours of content there. I think that my observation is that that original promise of digital around there's so much choice, that's not enough. It needs to be choice and quality, and I think users want to kind of have their cake and eat it. So I think I don't think there's a maximum library size, but I think the bigger your library size, the more pressure there is on you to create a good user interface to manage
Find
that.
things, yeah.
And I think it's interesting listening to Anthony talk about simplicity, which I think is actually at the heart of innovation, is that we need to, as an industry, innovate back to something which is so simple and intuitive, and it's easy to get distracted away from that, I think.
Yeah. Jessica, how did you decide, I mean, do you just get the titles that you can and put them out there, or do you go for a specific size, or how do you figure out that right balance?
At first, when we were a YouTube channel, it was just we needed to just get as many movies as possible. The sort of purchasing of online licenses didn't really exist before we came along, so movie pirates would just get a VCD, not DVD, VCD, which is popular in Nigeria because it's much cheaper. They would just upload it, chop it up into sort of small sections, upload it, and then the producers wouldn't receive any money. So at first, we just wanted to get a decent-sized library. We currently have a library of about 5,000 movies, maybe slightly more. But when we introduced the sort of SVOD business model, it was more about quality as opposed to quantity. So the way that we decided to divide up the business is that for the people who are subscribed to Roku TV Plus, they pay $7.99 a month, and they get 4 brand new movies a week. The thing is with Nollywood is that people watch it for hours and hours and hours on end. People have an insatiable thirst for it. So we have people begging for new content all the time. And I think there probably are Roku TV viewers who have watched every single of those 5,000 movies online. Because people just have it on in the background.
Yeah.
And Nollywood movies are very much, they used to be sort of divided up into part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, because originally a movie producer wouldn't be able to recoup their finances from their first movie. A movie producer would have between 5 to 7 days to actually make a profit, and after that it would be pirated so quickly. So what they would do is make the film into 1, 2, 3 parts. So obviously they sell, I don't know, maybe 500,000 copies of the first part, and then they'll recoup some money, and then 350,000 copies of the second part, because people would be compelled to buy the second part. So Nollywood is really, it's very difficult to explain. It's quite complicated, but it's sort of brutally simple as well. It's all about the money.
Yeah.
But so what we do is that we make sure that we have a big catalogue for the people who don't subscribe, so they have plenty of choice. And we do have the biggest catalogue of African content, not just Nigerian, but African content online. But also for the people who are subscribing, we make sure we have 4 brand new movies every single week. And we're actually trying to expand out into other other African genres as well. So maybe bringing in some sort of Cameroon films or films from South Africa and trying to broaden the audience's tastes as well.
Have you considered actually investing in content?
We do a lot of co-productions. I think last year we did about 75 co-productions. So we work really closely with all the top producers, and we co-fund the films, many of the films, and then that's great. That works really well for us because the producer might take, say, for example, the cinema and DVD rights, but we will have the online rights, the TV rights as well, and we also sell our movies to in-flight services as well, because we noticed actually that a lot of airlines that were servicing Africa didn't actually have any African content on their in-flight services.
Oh, really?
So we don't just deal now in we're an online company, but we look at how we can also monetize the content as best we can.
Now, in those of you that have launched the services, are you measuring things like usage rate and aggressively churning out content that isn't being watched? Fernando?
You mean what other people are sharing?
No. How much content is being watched? Individual titles are being watched.
We are definitely. This is one of the most interesting analytics that we are working internally, is to analyze which are the top 10 or top 50 most viewed content, and which of the contents that we have never been able to put in front of the users, or the users have never watched, because that helps a lot of our content negotiation guys to really understand how we should negotiate the content. This is, I think, something that Netflix is also doing. So it's taking part of your analytics of the service to try to put in front of the content owners to say, this is not working, so please split the content rights, or let's go for a more cost variable model, because otherwise it doesn't work. It also helps us to improve our recommendation engine, because we see clearly a trend towards I would say kids content, clearly, latest TV shows and episodes. And on the third, I would say family movies. It could be action or comedy movies. This is clearly basically the consumption model that we're seeing. And therefore, we are creating branded areas, simplified areas for those specific categories that by far are the most demanded areas. And also trying to work out algorithms to put content that we think is valuable so that the user have been unable to discover in the service.
Yeah. Are you, something for you as well, Oliver, I assume that you're in the new service in Snap, you're measuring usage rate, and you're probably measuring usage rate inside your VOD system. Does that influence how you go about licensing content for that? Do you, rather than going in and saying, I want to license a whole catalog, you go and try and cherry pick and say, I want this, not this other stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think for Snap, it's early days. We launched just before Christmas, but of course we had the benefit of the experience from Sky Go. I think because Sky Go is a sort of front list, new titles straight after cinema, we see a very similar pattern with online usage and TV ratings, which we've obviously had for years. So we do look to see, are there things that that people watch particularly online? And one of the great features that we've been able to introduce with the OTT service is to launch the US series the day after the US premiere in English. So everything, and this ties back into also combating piracy and showing that, if you want the best and you want it fastest, there is a segment who will watch the content in English. It takes time for us to dub it, and then we launch it on linear TV. So we're getting 2 shots at the new series premiere, and it's a very, very popular service, at least with the group who want it fast and who want it first. And there is some evidence that has actually reduced the level of piracy for some of these, particularly HBO series.
Right. And actually that brings up another interesting point, the role of exclusivity. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned HBO. I should mention Dave Alpert from HBO was supposed to be on our panel. Unfortunately, he couldn't join us. He is here. Dave, are you in the room? Are you in the room? Yes. He's right here, so if you would like to talk to him, he's actually here. But unfortunately, he wasn't allowed to participate in the panel. But I was talking with Dave at the break, and it seems to me exclusive content, I know this is something that is a big focus of Netflix right now. It is very important in any service. So can we talk a little bit about that? How... first of all, it's difficult to negotiate exclusive rights in the online world. Are you all thinking about or talking about licensing exclusively for the streaming market? And what are those negotiations like? Are you able to actually get exclusive rights? Who would like
perhaps
to?
I could
Oliver?
be brief but start, because our entire business is founded on exclusive content. So I guess we're new to the standalone OTT services where it's less common, but it's not a surprise to us that exclusive content is incredibly important to differentiate your service when otherwise everything looks much the same. UIs are important, experience, good recommendations, both editorial and through recommendations engines. But in the end, you look at how the services are advertised. It's all about the content.
It's all about the content. Yeah. So when Netflix launches in Germany later this year, which everybody's widely expecting, they won't have 24, but you will. Is that one of the exclusive pieces
yes,
of content?
and we're the home of House of Cards in Germany. We show it the day after they premiere in the US. But I think as a general.
You mean Netflix will not be able to stream House of Cards in Germany?
I didn't say that, but we have it first, and we
okay.
have just shown the second season, and we're looking forward to the third, which we will also have. So I think it's natural. I think the question is it just a little cherry on the cake, or is it ultimately what you need to offer is a series of unique assets and a broad range of exclusive content that tells people why they should buy your service, not somebody else's?
Okay.
I think for the BBC, then obviously the vast majority of our content is exclusive to the BBC, so there's some acquired programming, but most of it is commissioned and made for the BBC. I think exclusive is being used in a slightly different way within the BBC, which is what content can we make exclusively for iPlayer that we wouldn't necessarily make for broadcast television. So what is it about the nature of on-demand IP delivery that means you can maybe try out with different lengths of programming, so either really short or really long. It's a great opportunity for new talent. So we've just last week launched 3 new drama shorts on exclusively to iPlayer using brand new talent. One of them's a 15-minute drama written entirely in verse, not something that would neatly slot into the linear TV schedules. So the freedom to kind of do things of different lengths and with different talent.
So it sounds like for you, it's almost a place to play, where you can try things out that you couldn't try otherwise.
Yeah.
Let's switch the conversation a little bit. We haven't really talked about social. Social hasn't really been mentioned this morning, and I did want to talk about the role of social, particularly as it pertains to helping people find stuff in VOD catalogs, in large VOD catalogs. So, Haggai, talk to us a little bit about social, how you see social being used. Is it just, pulling from people's friends what they're watching? Is it as simple as that, or what is it?
So again, just a bit, maybe one, just to say, I feel as if I'm coming from a different galaxy a bit in the discussion today. As I think when I see the title of creating innovative new VOD services, I hear a lot of talks about building defenses, which is for me old school kind of exclusivity being one of them, old school kind of way of thinking, whereas I think the real innovation will come from how you package and deliver the content, the business model you obtain to that packaging, and you can see people with even Netflix that's mentioned here, with all due respect, did not start with premium content streaming. I mean, it's not the best, most advanced new content, and still they've got 40 million subscribers, right? So it's a different business model, it's a different way of packaging, and I think that's part of innovation. And social is just...
But just the Netflix example, if you look at the last 3 content deals that Netflix has done, exclusive streaming rights is what they were looking for.
Yeah, and
so
even their House of Cards, they're allowing to all over the world to be used, though. They're not keeping it exclusive.
Right,
well,
right.
At least not in regions where they have service. But, and I'm not saying it's not a tool. I'm just saying their strategy was not exclusivity or whatever. It was a different business model, and they are the pioneers in personalization and so on. So social for me is another aspect of packaging and serving the content differently, and thinking of different business models and ways to package that content to actual subscribers. So we do things with social. I've got to say, it's not for us the main thing about the user experience. I think social is a very important part of the puzzle, but it's only a part of the puzzle. And when I want to watch, the way we use it is obviously when we want to recommend content, when we want to share, we want to personalize, then there is this aspect which is important. A thing that I do see as a success, I mean, for example, and I'm not sure of what I'm saying, but I think the number one second screen application today is Twitter. I mean, without a doubt, there is not even everyone close to the amount of engagement that Twitter is getting while watching what people are watching television, and that's social, right? So in that respect, from a second screen experience, from a recommendation point of view, from views and opinions around the content you're viewing, we do see a lot of social impact. We are embedding it into the services we do, or the UX we do, the user experience we do. But in no way is this the concept of the UX. Okay,
It's funny. It was yesterday on a panel I was moderating. Iolo Jones said exactly that. He said social owns the second screen. It's very interesting. I'm sorry.
True.
Yeah, no, to echo that, I think that we're seeing as social as being almost kind of reinventing the water cooler moment. And actually, I think it's interesting in an on-demand context that I'm going to get the stat wrong, but the number of people who watch the whole of season 2 of House of Cards on its day of release because they want to avoid the social spoilers. And I think that we're seeing that the social media is people do want to watch stuff at the same time and do want to kind of. So I think that although you might have a huge long catalogue, then actually the moment when something's fresh and appears will become a big deal, which I think is oddly harks back to more kind of linear release models, that there will still be a moment when for certain content it appears and people want to talk about it and be social around it. But I think in terms of the most kind of popular second screen application, my contention is it's probably Google, and that actually so much second screen activity is so self-directed that people see stuff on TV, it makes them think of something, and that's where they go first.
Yeah. I didn't see social. I didn't see evidence of any social in the new iPlayer interface. Did I miss it, or is it just not there?
It's pretty light touch. So I think that interestingly, in the previous version of iPlayer, then we went quite big on social, and it was at a period when a lot of companies were doing frictionless social sharing. So you hook it up with your Facebook account, and it shares what you're watching on Facebook. We've discovered quite quickly that most people don't want to indiscriminately share everything that they watch. So what we now have is a set of share tools where you can share specific programs with your social network of choice, rather than the kind of the binary share everything. And I think that just chimes with normal behaviour, that people there's a particular program that they want to talk about and others that they don't want to talk about, or there's a particular program that they know that person would enjoy and not others. And I think people's TV viewing is so eclectic, really, which is part of the big challenge around content recommendations and discovery, is that there's not a simple recipe of you like this, therefore you must like this, because chances are you might not.
Yeah. It's funny that there's sometimes I think the web allows people to do things because it can be done. There's a company in the States called Tomorrowish, and what they do is they replay the social conversation that occurred in the live broadcast with the on-demand. And they assure me that there's quite a large audience of people that, for them, the social part is as much a part of the show as the original. So they're called Tomorrowish. You should check them out. It's a very interesting.
But really, that social is a much better fit with live and event TV than it is with VOD. So they're trying to, maybe bring that back if you miss, but probably to find an event that's got a serious social buzz about it, it would have been a live or really new show. And often, a lot of people's viewing is not of that. It's of series and, content that people want to consume at their own pace over time.
Yeah.
I want to just elaborate, saying that social for me is not just chatting, which is what you refer to, which is obviously very relevant to life. But for me, social and how we approach it as well is when you get to, however your piece of content is packaged, part of the packaging is social, which doesn't have to be live and chatting, meaning whether it's the producer's voice in his Twitter or the actor in his Twitter, whether it's the chat by the fans around that page, whether it's the number of likes or your friends, what they say and comments. So even a static, social, the aspect of social is first live in chatting, but it also is part of the metadata of tomorrow, right? So when you go to watch a movie, you know what? If I have to choose between, even the synopsis of the movie versus, and I'm going extreme, versus the social information I can get in the movie, I'm going to choose more on the social information I get and not on even the synopsis. So that's how much it affects. And I'm exaggerating, okay? But it's definitely part of the mandatory metadata that is needed to consume content. And so it's not just in live.
Right. So I want to turn, by the way, if you have a question, please put your hand up and we'll get a microphone to you. Payments. It can be a real big challenge. Netflix has stumbled pretty badly in Latin America because of payments. Jessica, Fernando, in your markets that you're servicing, talk to us a little bit about how you can allow people to pay and how you got over that hump of not having a credit card and etc.
I think that our approach should be different. We are there since the last 25 years, so we know we bill any single customer on a monthly basis, even with prepaid from mobile or postpaid with billing or credit card or direct to bank. Clearly, we know how to bill, and this is one of our strengths. But therefore, when we tried, we've discussed this internally many times. So whether we should be providing our video on demand services just for our customers, which is a huge customer base. If you include the prepaid customers in Latin America, we might be having more than 160 million subs in total. I mean, mobile, pay TV, etc. So we are huge in LATAM, but you shouldn't be too optimistic saying how many of those will turn up. Or end up in being just video on demand subscribers. This is a different thing. So don't mix up the numbers. So we've been deciding whether to attack our existing customer base where we know the customers and we have a billing relationship with them, or to open up the service to the country, to the rest of the people. And we are doing both, and then learning from different scenarios. And it's clearly a headache in South America to try to make people pay and understand what e-commerce. We have a cultural barrier of e-commerce in South America for the normal or the mainstream segments, and therefore we are trying to use our payment methods, prepaid, billing, etc., to ease that path. But that's still a barrier. And I think that any other big company coming down there, like Netflix or whomever, is clearly suffering from that. So we think we have a chance of potentially being faster in that issue, in that specific topic.
Yeah. Jessica, how did you get over it in your market?
Oh, we haven't. It's really, really difficult. Just payments across Africa are very, very difficult anyway. One of the areas that we found is that actually paying for content isn't an issue. So in the West, I think a lot of people do just expect content for free. In Africa, people pay for pirated content, let alone proper content. So getting them to the idea about paying is not an issue. Actually paying for Iroko TV Plus is really, really tough. We tried a number of payment platforms, but they were very, very buggy. In Nigeria especially, there's a lot of suspicion around online payments. A lot of people just don't have a bank account or a credit card or online banking. Quite recently, we actually made it possible in Nigeria that you can actually pay for Iroko TV Plus, actually hand the money over at a bank, which is quite labor intensive, but at least it's a way of getting money, and then they can then send the receipt number to our customer service team, and we can then give them access to Iroko TV Plus. Another thing that we looked at is that just churn. People just churn as well. The people that can pay online, they were churning within a month. So obviously we weren't really making any profit. So in Nigeria, we actually took away the opportunity to only pay 1 month. You know, people had to pay 3 months at a time. So then at least people were only churning 4 times a year rather than 12 times a year. So it really, really is like a huge headache for payments online. It's something that we still haven't figured out. We're still trying to figure it out as well. I think it will continue to be a headache in 2014 and 2015. Yeah. But that being said, it's a headache that is worth overcoming, because when we introduced Iroko TV Plus, it was difficult with the messaging. A lot of people thought that the whole website was now you had to pay for to watch, and it was only the brand new movies. So we actually saw a decline in numbers, and it took us a very long time to build those numbers up. But now Iroko TV Plus is the most profitable part of our site, and I think we see month-on-month growth of about 5 or 6%. So payments in Africa will continue to be challenging. But even if you just get a small percentage of the market, because we're talking such huge populations here, it really is worth it in the long
You can
term.
do well.
Yeah.
Actually, it reminds me a little bit of something that Chet Kanoja, who's CEO of Aereo TV in the US, said when I did a chat with him. And he said that my subscriber acquisition cost is so low that I actually don't care if somebody only subscribes for a week. I can still make money provided they come back, every other month. Subscriber acquisition cost, this is a big difference, right, between delivering online and delivering through a traditional pay TV operator environment. Does that make you think about the way the offering is made to consumers? So I noticed with Snap, you're offering 1 month free, and I think it's only a 1 month commitment, right?
Yeah.
So that was a key factor, right? The subscriber acquisition cost in being able to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. And also the trial nature of the product, which is that, we want people to come in and take a look at it. As you say, that doesn't really cost us anything. I think, like many people, you're entering into a contract at the point where you start your trial, and we have something in place to stop people just from repeat trialing. But other than that, I think it's one of the great aspects of the OTT business model.
But do you care if people churn off? You care on some level, but if they churn off 1 month and come back 2 months later, does that matter to you?
I think it's incumbent on us to work out why that is. I don't want to deliver a service that people find useful 3 times a year. Economically, that might work, but I think people have limited time. We have a great catalogue. I think I would echo Netflix's efforts here. We just have to find and surface for people the content that they will want to watch. Every month of the year.
Yeah.
So I'm absolutely not satisfied with that. I think you might be able to make a case that the economics still work, but a customer who pays us 12 times a year is
it's
a
much
lot
better than
better.
a customer who pays you for 2.
Yeah.
So it sounds like for you at least, keeping a careful eye on churn is very important, at least internally.
Yeah.
Maybe
absolutely.
not so. For Fernando, with your services, is that something that you have as a key measure for your OTT service?
That's a good question, Colin. Because being a telco operator, or even a thing like Sky in Deutschland, we're used to have subscribers, and subscriber means somebody that pays on a monthly basis. And definitely, when we start launching our services, and after the first month of trial, the churn, as we measured it traditionally, was incredibly high. So we were we were afraid of how to measure that and what to do things, and then we implement different best practices over the whole customer journey to reduce the churn, because we also discovered that the online engagement, although it's simple to communicate, is not that easy for some of us, some companies like us. So we need to clearly identify step by step where our customers were dropping off. And what were the reasons for them to leave the service. So we were conducting many surveys with the customers, checking with them. Then we reduced this online churn to more reasonable numbers. It still is high, but we are not that afraid now, because we think that the online, as you said, online activation and deactivation is something that we need to live with. But I share with Oliver that for us also, a customer that comes 3 times per year is not a customer. We shouldn't be pushing those type of customers.
So it's like churn, whereas churn for a pay TV operator is extremely costly, churn for an OTT service is not costly, it's the missed revenue that's the driver for keeping an eye on subscriber acquisitions. Yeah.
I agree. And in fact, that is,
sure.
we've reduced it to a normal level, or to what we consider a normal level, and then it's much higher than what that would be on any other traditional pay TV, but we can live with that.
Okay. TikTok, folks, we're running out of time here. If you have a question, get your hand up. We have a question down here.
My question is for Jessica. What's your experience trying to contact mobile operators or local payments like M-Pesa to allow payment other ways of payment for the local Nigerian market?
We, as far as I know, we have had really early discussions with them. We haven't figured out the right way yet because those mobile operators take huge cuts, often up to 80%, 80-20. So we haven't found a payments platform that really works for us yet, but we hope to as well. I know M-Pesa especially is very, very big in Kenya, huge. It's just common currency. In Nigeria, not so much yet, but I think that mobile payments definitely will be the future. Mobile in Africa is so important. It's just a way of life, and even recently we started something as simple as a BBM account, and it was really just more sort of promotion of guess what's coming up on Iroko TV. We had thousands of people signing up to it, and actually we found that this BBM account was actually being used by a lot of people just to actually subscribe and figure out how they can pay. I think we actually assumed too much of our consumers. They weren't quite sure how to go through the payment process, but because they see mobile as a medium that they trust, and BBM is really just the network in Africa as well, we just go through the processes with them as well. So you go onto this page, you click on this site, and then we'll go through it with you. And it actually became more of a sort of hand-holding exercise through the payment system rather than sort of proactive, check out which movie. And that was quite surprising. And it's free to do. It just takes a little bit of time. But mobile payments, mobile platforms really are. They have the main voice. And even though we have plenty of ways of people to contact Iroko TV, we have a live chat, we have email addresses, all sorts, we actually found that more people actually just prefer to use BBM and mobile. So I'm hoping that in the future we will find a really great mobile payment platform to work for us.
And I think Mr. Alpert, welcome to the panel. Your question, it's on, we can hear you. Yep. Yeah.
Hi. This is a question for Via Access Orca. Hagia, you were talking before about the social sharing the experience and things like that. And as you can see in the industry, as the cloud becomes more confusing in terms of service providers and how the content is getting closer to the consumer, how does your company help build that bridge between the content and the consumer? Do you actually provide anything special to help the big brands sort of form their bond with the consumer? Is there anything you guys do?
Yeah, so yeah, I think that that's what some of what I was trying to say regarding the gap or the innovation that new VOD services can acquire is, I think, the vacuum that today mainly big operators have compared to, let's say, internet players. And what we do and what we are providing today, which I think is most relevant as part of, if I understand the question correctly, is we have created for these operators, service providers, and a cloud service that automates the publication of all the metadata and content that surrounds the video. So by automating and creating, so I go to iPlayer, there's, 50,000 assets. We put our platform on those assets and we create an endless world of magazines, including all the metadata from social to statistics to information to even automatically created content by the platform itself. And that kind of bridges the gap. I think it gets them closer to consumers because consumers today are not just about watching the movie, which is the end result. It's also about the journey from A to B. And we give the best, to my opinion, we are providing the best journey possible. So I hope that answers your question. I don't know.
It's all about the journey. Well, I want to thank everybody. Thank you, panelists, for your participation. Dan, thank you for sticking around and joining us. Thank you for your attention. And I think we are done. Thank you.